Have you ever just sat back and wondered, what would you actually do if you never had to work again? Not for a vacation, but forever. Well, today that's exactly what we're diving into, a future that kind of challenges the very foundation of our lives. Welcome to the post-labor paradigm.
Massive question. One that feels like it's straight out of science fiction, but is getting more real by the day. What if AI replaced all human jobs? Seriously, not just some of them, not just the boring ones, but every single one. Just let that sink in for a second.
So, where does that leave us? Well, it would throw us into a state you could call the Great Disorientation. I mean, imagine waking up tomorrow, and the entire concept of having a job is just gone. It's not a thing anymore, for anyone.
Think about your life right now. For most of us, it runs on a sort of treadmill powered by work, right? It dictates our schedule, it pays our bills, and for a lot of us, it's a huge part of who we are. In a post-labor world, that treadmill completely shatters. Suddenly, there's no 9 to 5, your income isn't a paycheck, it's something called resource allocation. And your identity as a doctor or teacher or engineer, well, that's just a blank page you've got to fill in yourself.
And this quote it nails it. Our entire social, economic, and personal lives are built around the scaffold of work. What happens when it disappears? See, we're not just talking about losing a paycheck here. We're talking about the entire framework that holds up our society just vanishing.
Okay, so if that framework disappears, how do we handle the absolute basics? I mean, if no one's earning a wage, how does anyone get food or a place to live or, anything? This forces us to completely imagine a whole new kind of economy.
And the core idea that makes this whole thing even possible is called post-scarcity. Basically, it's a world where super advanced AI and automation can produce almost anything. Food, clothes, gadgets in such huge quantities that things become either totally free or ridiculously cheap. When that happens, the basic rules of economics we've lived by forever get turned completely on their head.
Which leads to a really practical question, doesn't it? If stuff doesn't really cost anything, how do we actually get it? The whole system of earning money to buy things is totally broken.
So how would this new flow of resources actually work? Let's break it down. First up, AI and robots handle all the production. From growing the food to building the houses, it's all automated. Step 2, instead of you earning a wage, everyone gets access to those things through some kind of universal resource allocation. Maybe it's a universal basic income, maybe it's a credit system, or maybe you just have direct access to a giant pool of goods and services. And finally, with your survival completely taken care of, humans are free to do, well, whatever they want. That whole cycle of working to earn money to buy things you need, it just dissolves.
Okay, so our basic survival is covered. That's huge. But what about our social lives? For literally centuries, our status has been tied to our job title and how much money we make. If you take all that away, what's left? We would have to find entirely new ways to think about status and success.
You know how when you meet someone new, one of the first questions is always, so what do you do? Imagine that question becoming totally meaningless. Instead, the new question might be, what are you creating? Or how are you helping your community? Your status wouldn't come from your job, but from your creativity, the knowledge you share, your impact on others, or maybe even your unique way of seeing the world. It's a massive shift from valuing what you have to valuing what you contribute. And this brings this huge abstract idea right down to a really personal level. We've talked about the economy, we've talked about society, but what about you? What would you actually do all day? This is the individual's journey, and it's all about finding a new purpose. This leads us to this really powerful new idea, the portfolio of purpose. Think of your life less like a career ladder you have to climb and more like an artist's portfolio. You're not just aiming for one single goal at the top, you're carefully curating a whole collection of passions, projects, and relationships that all together create a life that's meaningful to you.
So, what could a week actually look like? Well, your time is no longer locked into that 9 to 5 grind. It becomes this fluid balance that you control. Maybe 30% of your week is spent learning a new language. Another 25% is on a cool creative project, like making music. Then you spend time on community projects. And of course, plenty of time for friends, family, and just taking care of yourself. The key here is that you become the architect of your own time.
All right, let's pull all of these threads together. We've gone from a world with no jobs all the way to a new model for the economy, for society, and for each of us as individuals. Let's really summarize this incredible shift from the old way of doing things to the new. And this is it, the absolute core of the entire shift. We move from a world where the primary goal is just survival to a world where the goal is to actually thrive, where your value isn't defined by your job title, but by your unique creativity and impact, where your time isn't something you sell but is truly your own to command. It's a fundamental change, from an economic system built on scarcity to one that's powered by abundance. Honestly, this isn't just a different economy, it's a completely different way of being human.
When you get right down to it, what we've imagined here is a world so transformed that the most fundamental rules of human existence have been totally rewritten. Why we get up in the morning, how we relate to each other, and what we even strive for in our lives.
And that leaves us with the ultimate question to chew on. Is this world without work a vision of ultimate freedom? A utopia where humanity is finally unleashed to chase its highest potential? Or is it an existential crisis, a world where we're just adrift, unmoored from the purpose and structure that has defined us for thousands of years? What do you think?